What is up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom and become the rockstar agent in your market. And we'll elaborate on that and more in the coming weeks. But today we have an amazing guest who's back with us today. We're talking about communication strategies and building rapport and getting better at closing deals, not by becoming a better closer, but by becoming a better communicator. How many of you want to be a better communicator? Let us know here in the comments. Guys, we appreciate you watching right here on Facebook. Guys, make sure to hit the like and heart button and tell people where you are in the comments so they can keep you in mind for referrals. So before we bring in our extra special repeat guest who has even more to share with us today, let's bring in the Junior Grandmaster himself, who's in the co-pilot seat with me, where he so belongs. Unfortunately, we will not be together next Monday because he's decided to take a little couch vacation, which I am constantly giving him a hard time for because it's not a holiday. But nevertheless, he is with us for this Monday. Greg McDaniel. Greg, how are you?
I will be with on our podcast on Money Jerk Off. We're not going to be starting another class. That's what I'm not going to do. But dude,
that's right. That's right. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I think you're going to cancel the podcast. But go ahead.
Hate. Good Lord. So I've been reading James Colburn. He was a guest of ours a little while ago on our show. I've been reading his book called Re-Succeed. And guys, it's an easy book to read. What I really like about it, he talks about going around and writing. I've been doing it so wrong, but on 3x5 cards, extra thick, writing 3 different questions down. And I have been doing it completely backwards now that I know that, Matt. And if you guys really want to start re-succeeding, he talks about stuff, how he's so open about his life, his struggles, this, that, and another thing, that I thought it was very, very inspirational. And I plan on, he's going to send me a couple of copies of it, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread that thing with a hard copy in front of me so I can underline and highlight. Then I'm going to bring James on. We're going to talk about it on one of my 4:30 shows, talking about, the different questions to ask yourself when you're supposed to ask them, because I really think there's a lot of power in that. I think a lot of us don't use the power of sleep to really both recharge and use our subconscious and, the supernatural or whatever you want to call it, the almighty, whatever's out there, to really come to the conclusion on a lot of deep questions that we ask. We just don't give ourselves the time to get them answered. And he really hones in on the part of going and really reflecting, taking part of your day to reflect and go deep. He gives himself 10 days out of the 30 days to read, listen, and do anything on content. The next 20 to go reflect on it and really absorb it. I thought that was powerful because I know for me, I thought it was fantastic. Because think about it, there's so much stuff that I just read or listen to, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Skips right off the surface and just keeps on traveling into the universe of nothingness, which is called my brain. But I really, I'm really interested to absorb.
Universe. I have to frame that as the quote now, Deborah. So Greg just admitted that his brain is a universe of nothingness. I would like you to be my special witness. And Greg has finally admitted it. All right.
Anyways, I talk a lot, but I think it's a really good book. Re-Succeed. James Colburn, go get it on Audible, guys, or go get a hard copy. Really good stuff. Brooke, how are you, Brooke? She says hi. Hi, Brooke.
All right. Well, let's bring in our special guest, Dr. Debra Dupree. Deborah, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderfully, and thank you so much for having me back again. Greg, you crack me up every time.
I do my best, Deborah, and I'm toning myself down because I know there's a lady in the room, and I'm not talking about you, Matt. I'm talking about Deborah, okay?
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for muting your colors for us.
No, but Deborah, I'm so excited to have her. Oh my gosh, guys, she is such a wealth of knowledge and so smart and so insightful about things, and she likes me. So this is actually special course for me.
That's right. Well, we all can't be perfect. All right. So Deborah, just before I've got a question here from the lead gen scription objections group, which I'll bring you in a second, and we can all talk about that. But before that, just give everybody that may have not seen your original episode a quick overview of who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Thank you so much, Matt and Greg. I won't forget you too, okay?
Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah. Again, I'm Dr. Debra Dupree, and I like to say I'm very proud of that doctorate because I just went back to school a few years ago, so it's only 3 years old. And
wow.
In my quest, so in my quest to continue learning and understanding human behavior and what makes us tick and what makes us not, so my doctorate degree is in psychology, and so don't let that scare you, right? We'll be okay.
Oh man, nice padded fall as I tumble
There we
through
go.
my
There we go.
yes.
Yeah. But I will say that, I've been fascinated with human behavior, largely growing up in a family-owned business. It wasn't real estate, but it was buying and selling dairy cattle, no less. But just watching my dad wheel and deal, and just the dynamics of the whole thing, I just really got intrigued with people in business, and how people sell, and why people buy, and all that. But so I've taken it to helping people master their relationships, and in whatever they do, through communication. I am a mediator, so I do a lot of conflict resolution. But really, it gets down to a few basics of how we present ourselves, how we come across, being clear in what we say, but also how to connect with people to engage them and to entice them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people lose it because they get the ego involved in the communication process. Because if they hear something they don't like or they don't agree with, they immediately go on the offensive instead of trying to be understanding in the communication. It happens in personal, interpersonal, business, everything, every type of walk of life. And I found myself having to do a lot of stuff after I've talked with you, Deborah, several times. The fact that I slow myself down, I really analyze what's going on in the conversation, I take myself out and the emotions out of it, and then it helps the whole communication process, significantly improve the quality of the communication.
Greg, I'm so glad to hear that in just a few short months.
I know. The magic at your fingertips you've had on me. Just bing. Just there you go. Let you be intelligent.
Oh man. Now imagine what progress Greg can make in 10 years.
There we go.
When the podcast is still running and I am completely, have
Bald.
gray and white hair.
I bring knowledge and wisdom, Matt, because as you can see here on my chin, it's all white hairs. It's called dipping my chin in wisdom.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, we'll have to talk about that one offline, okay?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's cover this question real quick because it's a great jumping off point. So Jean-Paul Israel says, hope you're enjoying your Monday. What is a good book that can teach you how to easily connect and build rapport with people that you just meet? I've been focusing on developing and educating myself not only to be a better agent, but more importantly, become a better friend. And I'm looking for a good book that can help me out. So first of all, I love his approach. I love the question, for two reasons. Number one, he's looking for a book, which that always gets to my heart. And the second is that he wants to, become not just a better agent, but a better friend, which I think is one of those things that we overlook a lot of times in the quest to get better at our jobs or our careers or businesses or make more money. We often skip the relationship factor of it. So anyway, so Debra, I know that you've got a ton to say about building connection and rapport that we'll get to in a second, but what are some of the resources that you enjoy that really had an impact on you?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, I mean, I have a whole wealth of library, over the years, but there are two books I would really encourage people to read that are critically acclaimed and taught in organizations all over the country and world. One of the first ones is Crucial Conversations. Maybe you've heard of that. It's a very powerful book, and then there's a companion to that followed up called Crucial Confrontations. And so really powerful in terms of, helping you, how do you structure a conversation, how do you connect over difficult topics, difficult people, and how to open up those kinds of conversations as well. Yeah. And so I will give a tip here is that, in terms of, starting conversations is that be prepared in terms of, what kind of situation are you going into, who are you going to, what are the type of people you're likely to meet, and have 3 or 4 topic areas that you readily have some questions already developed around that can roll off your tongue then. And so, it might be, what do you do for work? What are you passionate about? Where are you from? What's one thing that lights up your day? So something like that to really just start a conversation. What brings you here to this event? What motivated you to come? So having some topics readily handy and actually practicing some questions around that, then that gets back to the neuroscience of our brain. The more we reinforce and practice, the more readily it can roll off our tongue, and then we'll seem very calm and at ease.
I like that. Yeah. So essentially role playing, right?
It can be, but
At least
even
role playing
well,
in the original sense of role playing in our head.
exactly, yeah, and the good old adage, go to your bathroom mirror or something, or stand in front of a mirror someplace and watch how you come across. What's your facial expressions look like, and if you were assessing who you are, what would you say about the picture that you present to somebody? What would you want to
Interesting.
be asked? What would you want to be asked?
So, what are your thoughts on the Ford script? Talk about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If you don't like dreams, you can change it to G for goals.
Hmm.
So frog or Ford. Always
Yeah,
asking, pertinent questions about them, consistently peppering them with things about them. Because, Deborah, I'm sure you'll agree that everyone's favorite topic is themselves. So,
absolutely.
if you let me talk
If
about
it's
me,
asked genuinely, yeah.
yeah, but that's genuine.
Well, you
Not
mentioned
generic.
peppering. Like you have to avoid the peppering. I think
No, it's
it
peppering.
has to be a sprinkling or a dusting of
No,
personal questions. I don't know about the peppering.
little salt and pepper. Just it's
Yeah,
like, so what's your favorite color? Where do you like to walk? Do you like blue? I like to go. I like to go for long walks. Do you? No.
that's right. You don't want to come across like an excitable puppy.
In the appropriate manner, people.
I
Okay.
think
Yes.
we talked about that last time about how
Oh my God,
Oh man.
it's genuine interest in the other
yeah,
human
yeah,
is
Yeah.
what really comes through the most. I mean, we'll banter all day long over here about peppering or
Yeah.
not peppering, but genuine
So
interest in.
crucial conversations and crucial confrontations. Those are the two books
correct,
that you recommend.
correct, yes,
Awesome.
yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very
Matt,
good.
Matt,
Cool.
I
I'll
know
have to
you. I
check
know
those
you
out.
have a book in there. So, what's your book?
For building connection and rapport, that's a great question. I would have to agree. I think Aaron Wittenstein responded to this thread as well, and he put down How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I'd have to probably put that right up there. I can't think of a better book that I've read on the basics of building rapport. Nothing springs to mind like right offhand in terms of like building genuine connection with people
So,
that really tops that book.
so the one that I kind of comes to mind is The Power of Now. The book talks about just
Yeah,
being in the moment right now. No
Mm,
distractions, no cell
that's
phones,
good.
nothing, but just be Matt, Deborah. There's nothing else on the God's green earth except for you two in my life right now. And
mhm,
Mm,
letting life pass you by for that minute, because if you are wholly focused on someone else and genuinely interested in them, that's more worthwhile than gold in our economy, because nobody does it. We are so distracted. They actually did the study, and Deborah, I think I'm right, but if I'm wrong, please slap me verbally. But she's like, bah, I'm already ahead of you. But didn't they do a study, and they said that now in today's day and age, the human, and we're so distracted, our attention span is less than a goldfish's. I mean, we're just like, boom, we're
mhm,
out of
I
there.
think we're at 6 seconds, and I was talking about this with Chris Lockhead the other day. He mentioned that the latest study that he heard says that we get somewhere between 40 and 50,000 advertising messages a day.
That
mhm,
If you
that moved
include,
that moved up quite a bit, because I was at 25 to
Mhm.
3,500 a day.
Yeah, we're
So
talking about everything from the logos on people's T-shirts to Facebook,
let's see.
the top and the right-hand side to, online to kind of everything factored in together, and probably widening the definition to include seeing
Yeah,
branding, just the brands that we see kind of moving through our lives versus a marketing message, which is a direct, like an attempt to communicate with you or start a conversation with you. And it's
right.
interesting because that leads into what we're going to talk about, because this is where people get frustrated with advertising, right? It's why people get frustrated with you if you're making cold calls and they don't want to talk to you. It's why maybe you feel uncomfortable making cold calls. Greg, obviously you don't have this humanity chip, which is great for you, but the rest of us may, and we may feel uncomfortable making the calls because we ourselves feel uncomfortable receiving the calls, right? And it's because we're not doing the first part, Deborah, of kind of building rapport, which is the connection. There's no connection. They're shouting a message at us. They have no idea whether the message is really targeted, if we're really interested in receiving that message. And so that's advertising. Maybe it's an interesting example, but it is an example of they're not really building rapport with us first. And we don't want to fall into that trap of doing the same thing, advertising by shouting, essentially.
Hey, you guys, look over here. But
Yeah, exactly.
the one advertising in today's day and age is essentially you taking your business card,
mhm,
going to a Super Bowl football game, holding it up in the air as high as you can, right when the touchdown takes place. And then you wonder why no one calls you. It's because you're drowned out by everything else around you. I think that's what Deborah's going to talk to us about, how to communicate more effectively and efficiently, so that people want to hear your message instead of being made to hear it.
Yeah, that whole power of what I call the power of connection is so critical and so essential, because think about it. Who would you rather do business with? Somebody you know, or somebody who's just called you? And I'm sometimes surprised at the number of cold calls that I might still receive, because like, you're not pronouncing my name right, you don't even know who I am, and hey, why would I want to talk to you? And so, really the power of connection and making that warm introduction is so much more effective than the cold hand or the cold call. Yeah.
It is, but I mean, always an introduction is going to be more powerful than anything else. One of the things that I found, that if you, within the art of doing the cold calls, if you can get it done, it's your tonality and your tempo and your, being able to hear and, feel the other person on the other side of the line when they're about getting fidgety, about ready to slap you or hang up. Letting them go, thank you, moving on. But I mean, getting that introduction is just liquid gold.
Yeah, that would be the first and foremost kind of thing. And I realize that calling, out of the blue has to be done, and I have to do it at times as well. And yet, you said it, Greg, is that the tonality of your voice is critically important. And I don't know if our listeners know this, but 55% of how we communicate is by what we see. And so whether it's the branding messages flashing all over, or our own personal appearance when we actually meet people in person or come across in a video call, all of that's huge. 38% is actually by tone, volume, and inflection. And so how you sound is critically important. And so if we are communicating by telephone, we're actually influencing people's reception of us by 86% by tone, volume, and inflection. And only if it's by phone, only about 14% is the words we say. If it's in person, then our content of what we're trying to say gets lost, depending upon how we visually come across and how we audibly come across to others. And so one thing that people can do before they get on a call or go meet people, quite honestly, is to engage in the art of deep breathing. Because, if you breathe 3 or 4 times deeply, that actually slows down the heart rate. It obviously slows down the breathing, but it also relaxes the vocal cords. And so you can come across more calm and centered and deeper. And meanwhile, it's slowing down the brainwave activity, so you're more present in that moment.
Yeah, the Navy SEALs have a breathing technique that actually allows them, in the heat of battle, when bullets are flying, grenades are going off, they have to pull off tactical maneuvers. They do the deep breathing and allow it, and they go 7 in, 10 out. And they'll slow their whole chemistry down. So they allow their brain to take over, and it's not their emotions and everything else. And that is, you can do it for public speaking. You can do it in any circumstance, going on a first date. It could be anything that makes you nervous, to get your brain working again instead of your emotions and your heart, and slow your heart rate down. And when they say just breathe, they mean literally just breathe, and breathe deep. But no one ever takes that into account. Like was it Wim Hof? The Wim Hof breathing technique. The guy hiked Mount Everest basically in shorts.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, if that's not
author breathing,
that it works.
It does work. Okay, guys, so before we dive into more on connection and active listening and all that good stuff, I just wanted to let people know, so that there's a link that you can see underneath me and Greg here. It's reuuncensored.com/introvert, and that is a special link to a deal for it. If you guys remember, a few months back, we recorded a special session called The Introvert's Guide to Real Estate Success and Sales Success. And we turned that into like a 6-video module course. And so all of that is there. You can check it out and see a little bit more of the specifics. But essentially, we went really deep on how introverts specifically can take advantage of things like active listening techniques and just some of the changes and communication strategies that Debra had to offer, combined with the fact that consumers had, expectations of you are different, and you don't have to be a salesperson anymore. Greg, you and I were talking a lot about this on Friday, just about how one of the biggest fears that agents have is coming across as the needy salesperson. And I totally get that. Like, I know exactly what that feeling feels like, and it is a horrible feeling, and I know exactly why people are trying to avoid it. This course is the secret to avoiding that feeling, guys. So we've got a special on it. So where we put everything together for you. It's all, downloadable, like videos you can watch that are broken up into modules, downloadable audio so you can grab it on the go, and all that is at reuncensored.com/introvert. For anyone that gets it today within the next 24 hours of watching the live broadcast, it's $67. You can also get it if you're listening to the sound of my voice and it's come up on iTunes. If it's within the first 24 hours of this hitting on iTunes, you can also get it for $67. So guys, go check that out.
And I put the link into the newsfeed, guys. So if you don't want to copy feed, it is in there, and I will put it periodically through the show. So if you're sitting there like, shit, where'd it go? I don't see it. Well, don't worry, no fear. Uncle Greg is here.
That's right. But if you're watching this later, just keep in mind it will go back up to 97, both after the live broadcast and after it drops to iTunes. So if you see that and you're watching or listening later and you see it and it's 97, that's why. So it's just for the listeners, the live listeners here with us today, and then the people that listen within the first 24 hours of it dropping to iTunes. Everybody that does that and go grabs the course will get it for 67. But we want to dive into communication strategies with Debra today and get into the connection a little bit. So Debra, let's talk a little bit about that. So that just how to build rapport, because people struggle with this. Doesn't matter whether they're an introvert or an extrovert, but extroverts are maybe a little bit better at solving this problem by plowing right on through it and not worrying whether they're building rapport, basically building rapport with themselves by having a grand old time talking, doing all the talking. Greg has no idea what I'm talking about, of course.
No, me over talk? No.
So extroverts have solved that problem. Introverts fail massively sometimes because we're so up in our heads that we fail to build rapport with the other person because we're thinking about us, which is not good. So how do we build that genuine connection, whether you're an extrovert or introvert? How do we hit that middle ground where we're really focusing on the other person and making them feel comfortable?
Mm-hmm. Well, we already mentioned, it's important to have, and Greg offered up a couple of acronyms, the FORD and the FROG, as far as, having areas of concentration where you're prepared to be able to ask questions. And one of the things that, what we do a lot in the field of mediation that's so readily available to anybody else is what we call the art of probing. And that's really, the use of open-ended questions. And so, for example, what brings you here today? What captured your interest about this program today? And then whatever someone says, then you build your next question on that again, using a what. And then take it down another level. And about the third or the fourth question, then, well, how would you benefit from attending this program today? And the last question would be, the fifth question would simply be something like, well, what would you hope to gain, or what do you want to walk away with, or what's most important to you today? And so that structure, that art of probing, and we talk about 5 layers, and each question using a what or how builds on what they just said. And of course, you want to do it, casually and friendly. But that really helps pull more information out from people, and by being able to ask those kinds of questions, it signifies to the speaker that you're really listening to them, because you're building each question on what was just said. Okay, so the art of probing is really valuable.
So let me throw this out to you, Greg. I'm curious whether you would apply this. Where the first thing that I think of, Debra, you were using kind of almost like a networking event, maybe analogy, where you kind of ask them like, hey, why are you here? What are you looking to get out of it? Works great for what would you call it? Conferences. That's what I'm looking for, like conferences, events, and stuff like that, where there's some education component. That is a killer line of questioning. But it reminded me of the fact that when we go into a listing consultation with a potential seller, we all know like what our goal is as a realtor, right? Like we want the listing. But I don't know that anybody, Greg, have you ever gone into an appointment and just started off with that kind of line of questioning and see, is that actually their goal for the appointment? Are they ready to sign? Like if they're comfortable, are they actually ready to put the home on the market if you feel comfortable with me and the price in the marketing and stuff like that? Have you ever gone like on a line of questioning like that, where you actually make sure that they actually want to make a decision like that at this appointment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to understand their whole reason behind it. So you come in, hey guys, how are you? What's going on? Blah blah blah. Let's look at the house. Help me understand. Why are you guys thinking about making a move? Where are you guys going? You staying in town? You going out of town? What's your timelines? What's more important to you? Price or timing? You start going down all these different questions. What's your, if you could have a perfect utopian world, what would this process and sales numbers look like? Because you're kind of creating a full picture here, like a 3D mental picture. It can't just be one dimension. It can't be just flat or one line. It has to be full 360, so you understand the start all the way around to the end is exactly where you started. And asking these questions right off the bat, you're gonna know if you're gonna be wasting your time with a seller or a buyer, or if you're gonna be able to get something rock and roll in ASAP. And these questions, I mean, if you have to be okay with the opportunity with them saying, look, we're just starting this process. We're not really thinking about making a move right now. Great. Not to waste, not wasting time, but not to spend your valuable time with them at this moment, at that quantity. You spend time with them, but not, every single day, deep breathing over the phone, like, you were thinking about selling yet?
No, nobody needs a lot of deep breathing over the phone. Thank God. Good Lord. Yeah, I was thinking about this also in terms of buyers. Like we get hot and bothered to get out there and show properties and stuff like that, and sometimes the buyers are too. Great, but what we don't do is probably take the time to really ask them what stage they're at, and do some simple pre-qualification, not in the sense of screening them to see if they're a good client for us to work with. I mean, there's a part of that too, but just thinking of it as a true rapport, connecting with them and building rapport with them by asking those questions to really truly see what their time frame is, to see whether they really want to get out there and look, and especially if you're the type of agent that, I know, Greg, you don't recommend this a lot, but I do. I think it's a great idea for people to go out and get exclusive buyer agency agreements. And so it's really important to build that rapport on the front side so that they're comfortable and there's a connection with you to where they want to work with you and they want to make you their exclusive agent. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, it's going to be tough to get that. You can't jump right into, because I was listening to so I was at Jeff Cohn's workshop today, and he had in Josh Cunningham, the founder of Rockerbox, which is like a lead follow-up company, and he said something really, really good, which he might have stole from Frank from at Viral, because it sounds like something that he would say. But he said, realtors are not selling homes. Buyers think we are, we think we are, but what we're really selling is a professional service. So you've got the buyer who's looking online for a home. They have to go through us, but we're not selling the home. We're selling them a professional service. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there that we have to resolve in that process of connecting and building rapport with them. They have to realize that, hey, I'm not a lockbox monkey, right? I'm an actual person that sells a professional service, and what I do is I sell my services that help make this transition into your home smoother. It's not my job to sell you the home. I'm not a home salesman. If you want that, go build a home, and you can talk to a person that's there to sell you a home. That is the only people that are selling homes. So I thought that was really good, just that mindset shift of we are selling professional services.
That's really a good mindset shift, because, I mean, I've never really thought about that. Like, I've always thought we would sell homes. No, but you're selling the service of selling homes. Very interesting twist.
That's very important. Yeah, I like that mind shift too, because that's where our rapport, our connection with everyone comes into play then. And Greg, you said one thing that I made a note to myself going, he remembers. Help me understand, right? And so that's a powerful phrase to start off. And so going back to your comment, Matt, as far as, what I outlined for you, that art of probing is something that can easily be used if you go to a networking event. But let's go back to your meeting to sign or not. And so it might be something starting off with, and you always have to start off with a broad question first. And so you could even say, help me understand, what is your goal for today? What kind of outcome would you like to see? What would make this an awesome meeting? What do you want to walk away with? So all of those are good open-ended questions then that could set the tone from the very beginning and let you know right up front without asking lots of questions. Just, we're just here to gather information. Then you could go, well, what would actually help you make a decision? What kinds of information do you need to know? And so all of those are the kinds of open-ended questions that we want to get in the habit of asking and framing about whatever information. I mean, you know what the purpose of the meeting is, but you may not know what their expectations are for that
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, because you might come into this with two different viewpoints. Therefore, you're going after objective A, they're going after objective B. All of a sudden, you're like, why are we not seeing eye to eye? Well, because you guys are going different directions, but you just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my dad has always been a big fan of asking those types of questions at all the times. I think John, if I remember the name right, Matt, because I don't have my phone up, but one of our listeners right now said that he will ask his clients as he walks into a meetings, what are you trying to get out of this meeting, and how can we make it a 10?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a great question.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I really like that a lot, because you set the expectations mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Everything comes into a line, because you're like, okay, I'm just looking for a number because I need to do an appraisal, or from updating my will or something like that. Oh, fantastic! Well, do you know when you're gonna be passing? Because that would be great. Can you put my name in? That'd be super duper fantastic.
That's right. Can you introduce me to your probate attorney so I can keep an eye on you? All right, so let's move on to into kind of that listen and then the engage stages. So let's say you've done a good job of asking those types of open-ended, and then you funnel them down a little bit to where they're a little bit more specific, but you've connected with them, you've built rapport that way. What are those next stages, and what's the transitions like?
Okay. Well, we've talked before, I think, and I'll say it again here today. The art of listening is really key. I mean, the whole process of communication is really more about listening than it is speaking. But too often we're quick to jump in and say what we have to say, or pepper with questions to get where we want to go. And so it's really important to listen to those nuggets. And so that's where I think, well, one of the downloadables, I know you haven't talked about it yet, Matt, but one of the value-added bonuses we have for today is what I call the tip of the iceberg. And so one of the ways to structure our listening skills is by paying attention to what I call the beach, listening to the sounds of the beach. And what beach stands for is B is for beliefs. What beliefs might this person actually be trying to convey? What expectations do they have? The A is for assumptions or attitudes. C is for concerns or challenges, and H is for hopes. And so what you can do by using the beach or keeping that in mind as you listen, then it's really listening for those nuggets with what they say and sort of capturing out the core essence of what they're saying around that. And again, when you can paraphrase that back to them, so it might be something like, well, Matt, I want to make sure I understand. So here's what I think I've heard you say. And then again, framing your response around the beach now gives you a structure. So you're always on point and on task.
Something that I do a lot of the times is that when I talk to a client, I say, well, Matt, Julie, you're three obese little wood denting, insulin sucking little babies. Not little, gigantic little, soon to be dead tards. If I'm hearing everything that you're saying correctly, this is what I'm hearing. Help me if I miss something here, because I may have. Debra, is it helpful to slightly demean yourself, to put them in a superior, mental location? Like, hey, I may have missed something, but this is what I've heard. If it's not, please please let me know. But this is what I heard. This is what I heard. Does that do anything, or is that an unnecessary step in your opinion?
No, I think it's a very important step. And I would suggest, though, let's reframe that a little bit. It's not about demeaning. If anything, when you take the opportunity to paraphrase and say, let me check in for clarity, I want to make sure I understand this because these are important choices for you. You're sort of honoring them. You're valuing them by making sure that you are actually capturing what's important to them. And so one of the things I realized I didn't quite finish saying what I was going to say when I said the tip of the iceberg. Too often we react to what we see, hear, and what's being said. And we don't oftentimes know how or take the time to dive deeper. And that's why I talk about the tip of the iceberg. Only 30% of the iceberg is visible above water, right? But below the water is that much deeper, bigger part of the iceberg. And that's true for us too. And so that's why the art of probing and taking time to paraphrase actually helps bring out that. And people start to feel connected when you can say, wow, yeah, I guess that is really important to me, and they feel that they're really heard then, and now they're more willing to relax and open up to you more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I heard it. The reason why a lot of the times people do not ask questions or engage with you, no matter what the scenario is, it could be online, it could be offline, is because they're afraid of their rejection. So, and not viewing something the same way they do it, and then making them look bad or feel bad, which I think is really interesting because what you're doing is you're affirming them, so then they'll be more likely to speak up. Is that right?
Yes.
Get that conversation going. But a lot of us don't ever think about that because we just say, if Matt and I are sitting there talking about, I don't know, podcasting or something, and maybe I felt like I didn't know something about something, so I never would ask a question. But Matt's like, well, dude, why don't you ask me this question? That meant I'll give some bullshit excuse, but ultimately it'd be because I don't want to look stupid. But people always come to me, and Deborah, I'm sure you get it, Matt, I know you get it as well. People say, well, I got a really dumb question. I'm like, no. Hold up. There's no dumb questions. They're just questions. So let's tackle, and that really seems to disarm people a lot. They're like, oh, okay, I feel it isn't a dumb question. Okay, what about this other one and this other one? And then the avalanche of questions follow.
I've told people actually to now treat me like a 5-year-old, and so that's a funny kind of disarming way to say, like, look, I need you to maybe rephrase this because I'm a little dense, or maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but treat me like a 5-year-old and please reframe anyway.
Explain this for me.
Well, I think, Deborah, this part of what this comes down to, and these are like the tactical, how do I put this? These are kind of the way that a mindset expresses itself in conversation and in tactical form. Where I really feel like it comes from is I've been going back and reading a lot of Jay Abraham, where he talks about the strategy of preeminence and really caring about your clients, falling in love with your clients more than what you have to offer them, and just how important it is for us to have what he calls like extreme empathy for the other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, really caring about what they actually think and feel and what their priorities, beliefs. Now, I love that analogy, not the acronym, the beach, because if you have that framework, the beliefs, expectations, assumptions, challenges, hopes, it's a very good framework for like a set of questions that will give you a good idea of where they're coming from, what their true motivation is, how they feel about their goals and what they're looking to accomplish, and all those things that if we skip that part, we think we're doing great right up until the point when we don't get the listing, we don't get the agreement, you know what I'm saying? Because we haven't really gotten down to what they need for agreement, right? And I'm very big on that, like looking at conversations like this through the lens of what do we like. Greg, remember who that Todd Brown that I sent you to listen to his podcast? Amazing stuff, like on the big idea and stuff like that.
I've listened to that 3 times.
Yeah, so guys, go check out Todd Brown from Marketing Funnel Automation. But anyway, he has this great. He points out that like when you're trying to sell somebody on something, whether it's in a video or a landing page or whatever, it's like ask yourself, what does this person have to believe in order for them to actually move forward? Right. And Deborah, you pointed out like that's right off the bat, right in the beach. It's the beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'd like to add to that acronym because that's the foundation of it. But there are 3 other key words that need to be addressed, and that's what I call the FIVMs. FIVM stands for fears. What fears do you have? And so what's your greatest fear about buying a house or selling this house? And I think we've talked before, fear is nothing more than an acronym for false evidence appearing real. We fear what we don't know. The V is for values. What's important to you? What do you value about making this purchase or buying a home in this neighborhood? And then what are your needs? What are your immediate needs for your family or for yourself? And so those are, again, 3 other key concepts around to ask questions. So we've got the beach and then the FIVMs. Okay. And remember what we said last time, listen. I want everybody to write this word down, listen, Listen, right? Now, below listen, I want you to write the word silent, silent. And I'm wondering if anybody in the chat box is going to tell us what do you notice about those two words, listen and silent. And so what do you notice?
They are the same letters rearranged.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so to listen, you have to be silent. And that's the other thing. And that's where, we talked before, Matt and Greg, about the communication styles. And, some of us are very fast thinkers. And so we're already busy processing our answer to what somebody's saying before they've even finished talking. And that's where we tend to interrupt. And interruptions are a sure deal breaker. And talk about dashing rapport. People don't like to be interrupted. And so some of us are very quick to do that. And so if we're for others, they need more time to process. And so that's why it's important to be silent when they're talking and actually allow silence, pausing. And oftentimes people are very uncomfortable with silence and they have to feel like they have to jump into that void. And yet again, for good 50-60% of the people, they need time to process. And so silence actually creates an opportunity for them to process what they've just heard and sort of be in the moment, breathe through the moment, think through the moment to say, okay, well, what does this mean to me? And by giving them that space, again, it's another aspect of connection.
I know I heard of a body can go like 2 weeks without food, a week without water or whatever, but the brain can only go 36 seconds without a stimulating thought. That's why being silent is the most powerful negotiating tool that you can have, because if you starve the other person's brain without giving it something to work on, it will find something to work on and they will be compelled to start talking. And if you stay silent, they will literally talk themselves into submission. Unless they know what they're doing, and then damn it, you're screwed. But for the most part,
oh man, that's funny.
You can just be silent. And I did it the other day with our photography company. We listed a piece of property and they have 3 different buildings on it. They were going to charge me $175 to take the photographs. I'm like, fuck you, no, that's not right. So I just stayed dead silent. I'm like, this is how you'd want to be treated, or is this how you treat your clients, or is this how you treat your family? And then I just stayed dead silent. The poor girl on the other end of the line had no idea what to do. She's like, but do you want it? I'm like, no, I don't. Oh, okay, I'll go talk to the owner then. Got him down $100. Just by staying dead silent.
Oh man, I can't wait for Greg to start taking advantage of the power of silence more often.
Oh, shut up, Jonathan.
So we got a good couple of comments here. First of all, Rob St. John says, Johnson for the win, always get the agreement. Mike Holbrook says, no dumb questions. Okay, then what do chickens think people taste like? And always count on Mike to bring the corny. No, that was very corny, but I love it. Okay, and Rob St. John says, is there something to the idea of asking about fears versus concerns? So Deborah, what do you think about that? Just instead of asking people what are your fears in terms of the home buying process or something like that, would you say, does that word concerns maybe make it easier for them to open up instead of putting it in terms of fear?
Yeah, and then that's actually part of the beach, right? The C is for concerns or challenges. Yeah. And so I would, really go there first, unless somebody's, well, this is where it gets to paying attention to body language then too, remember? Again, if you see tenseness, if you see furtive eyes, that usually is representative of anxiousness or something, that they fear. And so being mindful of that, those body language clues that could indicate anxiousness, fears, concerns, then we have a saying that you simply comment on what you observe. You look concerned about something, or did I just see a flash of fear across your face? What comes up for you? So again, not necessarily naming it, but just commenting on what you observe. And so I see some hesitancy. What might that be about?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I did that. I was sitting with my my operations manager here. This was when he first started, and he was really, really enthusiastic and was excited to learn and then we were sitting around talking, and I
Sasquatch.
did something. I shared. What's up?
Sasquatch, right?
Sasquatch, yeah, James. So we were sitting around at a Mexican restaurant. We were talking about just the plans for my like marketing and some of the things I'd like to talk about. And I just ran down. I just totally unintentionally. I was just enthusiastic about what we were talking about, and I just ran down a laundry list of like all the things that I could cover in in the marketing for the podcast business. And he's like, wow, and just kind of sat back. And then I was watching Deborah. You mentioned like the furtive eyes. I noticed that, and a little bit of tension. And I just gave it a second, and then I'm like, all right, so what are you thinking right now? Just because I wasn't sure if I was on to something, or if he was just like, if it just, if you sent him down a different mental path. And sure enough, it was like it just, hearing off that laundry list of stuff gave him the sense, like this overwhelming sense of, oh my God, like I have so much to learn. And there was a little bit of discouragement there in that moment. And because I addressed it and asked him about it and got the response, the truth, then I was able to address it and deal with that. Right. And it didn't linger and become this thing that then created more fear and more overwhelm as we went along. So yeah, it was just one of those things where I happened to notice it, catch it, and go a little bit deeper on it. And he trusted me enough to, obviously say that, yeah, it's a little overwhelming. I don't know if you always get that in a listing appointment. Hopefully you built up enough rapport that you get the honest answer.
Yeah. And that is key because, I'm sure we've all been in those meetings where we can see something shifted.
Yeah.
But we often don't comment on it, and that's a lost opportunity. And then people, disengage and then they leave and we never get it back.
Man, that's absolutely true. So true. Okay, so we are coming towards the end of our time together, guys. So, Greg, you want to comment a little bit on where they should go and the Introvert's Guide real quick? I know I talked last time, so I'm going to make sure you get your due.
Well, thank you, Johnson. I got to get my 50% or I get all kinds of grumpy. But all kinds of grumpy. Grumpy Greg, not a good thing.
Yes. And then as soon as we've done that, I want to get into the 5 ways to promote the authentic you, guys. So hang with us. We'll try to cover that in the last 10 minutes we've got.
Okay. Yeah, guys, I just put the link in here for the Introvert's Guide to Real Estate Success. Dr. Debra, who is gracing us again with her knowledge, beauty, grace, and wisdom. She's going to break it down for you guys big time in this program. If you guys really want to get to understand this, I mean, we got a special price going on it right now. Please take advantage of this. If this is something, we had over 250 people or something sign up for our show. We were only 50 were allowed to go watch it live with us. So the other 150 folks, if you guys want this plus worksheets and giveaways and everything else, guys, go buy it right now. I believe it's $67. And if you can hear my voice live, go click on the button. Come on, go do it. It's right there. I gave you the opportunity to click it, click it, click it, click it, click it, click it. Oh, that's annoying. Or if it's the first 24 hours on iTunes, you guys can click it, or it'll go to $97. So you will have to spend more money to get it. But it is epic content if you think you're an introvert and you're just trying to break through in this industry, because this is not an easy industry to break into. You've got to beat yourself up. You got to get bruised knees, skinned elbows. You got to get hit in the face a few times and fall down. This will help you sidestep a lot of those if you think and feel that you might be an introvert, and go for it. So guys, do we take advantage of it, please? And we don't pitch a lot of stuff on this show because we like to give the content, but this stuff we just can't. You have to buy it to understand how deep it really goes to be successful as an introvert in this business. So the link is there again. Go get it, you crazy fools. Yes, now I'm done, Johnson. You take over.
All right. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay. Because my computer on my end is like frozen. I can't do anything. I can't get back to you guys to actually see you or anything. So I wasn't sure if it frozen on your end too. But if you can still see and hear me, Debra, let's get into the 5 ways to promote the authentic you in the last few minutes that we have left.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I mentioned this earlier in the program, but really get familiar with yourself, in terms of how do you come across? What are your mannerisms, your facial expression, the sound of your voice, and being aware of the impact then that you have on whomever you're dealing with. And so developing that sense of self presence is key. So your presence in how you connect. Then two is really understanding, what are some basic differences between us. There could be things that are generational, certainly gender differences, and also being aware of cultural differences is another key element of being, conscious in how we come across the authentic you. And then definitely working on your communication strategies, and then also, sort of seeing the signs for potential conflict or disengagement. And so taking an opportunity to build some strategy around how do you approach people, how do you communicate, and making sure that you really are saying what you mean to say. And there was a word that came up earlier, and now I'm trying to remember it. But sometimes there's words that are, sound the same, but really are very different. And so, I mean, even the words listen and hear, for example, sound the same, right? But really, hearing is simply the audible sound. Listening is where we give meaning to words, and that's a different part of the brain entirely. Okay. And so, making sure that we really are saying what we mean to say and having a structure. And that's one of the value added components when people buy the program is I've actually provided a communications script, a two-part process for how to have a conversation without having a conversation. And this is powerful. And a lot of these tips and techniques that I bring to the show and to our listeners come from the field of mediation, of where we're dealing with difficult people, difficult topics, and these are strategies we know that work. And then the fourth step is to really work on your own emotional intelligence. It's like the iceberg again. Our IQ, what we know, is really only about a third of who we are. And instead, so much more of us is represented by that part of the iceberg below the waterline where we can get into the beach. And and there are four areas then when we talk about emotional intelligence. The first being self-awareness. And that sort of encompasses what I've already been talking about. Then also other awareness. And that's some of what we've tapped into today also, in the sense of being mindful of the clues that we see in their eyes, in their facial muscles, the tension or relaxation, the body language, and so forth. And then also self-management. Again, what do we do when we're triggered in the moment? How do we respond appropriately rather than just blurting out whatever comes into our mind? And so this is where, again, pausing and inducing a sense of silence for just where am I and what's going on, and then deep breathing becomes so critical. And then the last one is then now how do I actually manage this relationship? So those four key elements are all part of the emotional intelligence piece. And then lastly, this sort of goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization. I've recently recoined that based on some other research I've done too. That top level is really about self-development. We can always continue to learn. We can always continue to improve. Nobody has it 100% from the very get-go. And so investing in yourself as far as continuing to learn, to grow, to get better at whatever you do is essential, because we're always going to encounter somebody new, something different. And yet that combination of skills and that awareness really help pull it all together for really being authentic in how we come across.
Yeah, I love the whole continued education aspect. I mean, you can always become smarter, always be, spend your time wisely. There's a podcast called 2000 Books. It's for entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And it's a guy who reads 5 books a week at 3 times the speed on Audible. And then he barfs out little book reviews on them.
I'm sure he'd be thrilled to hear you promote it that way.
Oh yeah, I do my best. I'm very eloquent with my words. He barfs them.
Exactly.
I'm a linguist, if you couldn't tell.
You're a true wordsmith, Greg.
Greg, you mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to come back because you just mentioned it again. Is that a couple of things? Is that if we were to read a book every week on whatever topic it is that we want to get good at, we actually will be that expert within a year. Okay. And so that's how to really master what you're good at. The other thing, though, too, is that borrowing from Dr. John DeMartini, and he's a fascinating guy. He's authored like 40 some books, but he's read hundreds of books. But what he does is after he reads a book, then he tries to teach on that. And, through a podcast, through a presentation, or even to an informal group of people, because, it's one thing to read, but when we teach it, now we're actually embodying that, and we get better and better at what we do.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. Now, you said how long to get a PhD in it? You said how long, a year in a certain subject matter? Is that what you said?
Yeah, if you read a book every week for a year, along the line of things, like for me,
Right.
psychology and communication and conflict, then that's how you develop a specialty in that and really become a subject matter expert.
So, guys, if all of your little hearts just skipped a beat, like a book a week, I could never. I have 10 kids and everything else. Well, think about this, guys. Your drive to work and your drive home from work are probably about 25 minutes each way. So if you go time and a half speed on the book, you can get through a book a week just in that time. And most of us are in real estate, so we're driving around a lot more than the average bear. So you can listen to about a book a week with that mindset. So yes, you can do this. Just stop listening to the fucking DJ that plays this dumbass pop song and makes stupid jokes. Get a book, listen to it. I mean, I was driving to and from the peninsula over the weekend when I was dropping Lily off back at her house, and dude, I gotta tell you, dude, I spent 47 minutes one way, 47 minutes back the other way, listening to Re-Succeed by James Colburn, and it was the best time I could have spent. As I was relaxed, my mind was moving, I was thinking, I was about to get energized. So yeah, you can take that time that you're wasting right now when you're cooking, when you're on a walk, when you're in the gym. There's a lot of downtime, that you could listen to a book and gain those smarts back. That's a huge explanation over Deborah's eloquent, just like, yeah, you read a book a week and you're good. And I'm like, why don't I just draw this out?
Oh,
that's a good example of language. I mean, we have to change our language from read to, I'm not even sure, in golf.
Yeah. You play tennis, listen to books. It's fantastic. Soccer games.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so 5 ways to promote the authentic. So reach out, listen for understanding, view things from different perspectives, express thoughts and feelings, and create and vet solutions. So guys, that is in one of the PDFs that Deborah has graciously thrown in to the bonuses for the Introvert's Guide to Sales Success. So just wanted to close out, guys. Go to reuncensored.com/introvert and get that. So right now it's 67. That is obviously changing in 24 hours. It'll go up to the regular price of 97. Guys, if you're listening to this after the fact, if you're listening to it within the first 24 hours after it's published, then it is still 67 for you, but 97 if you're listening to this anytime in the future, guys. So Greg, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I just think Deborah's awesome, and I love it when she comes on our show. Deborah, can we have you back? I want to keep her.
I have so much fun here with you guys. It's great.
Oh, good. I'm really glad you guys, in all honesty, if you guys want to reach out to Deborah, I'm sure she'll take your call if you're not weird. But she is incredible. And Deborah, how can they get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you and hire you for anything, or just kind of buy a product from you or whatever else?
Great. Thank you so much for asking. You can reach me directly on my line, 619-417-9690, 619-417-9690, or text me. You can also visit my website at www.relationships-at-work.com. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Perfect. Johnson, how can people follow us?
Well, they should follow us. That is a very apt word for you to use, Greg. They should never friend us.
Never.
Because you cannot friend them. I will probably not accept their friend request unless it's someone that I have spoken to personally. I'm very selective on my Facebook friends. I want to connect with people online that I'm actually connected to offline. So if we've had a phone conversation, or if we run in the same industry and we have a lot of mutual friends, I will accept your friend request. Everybody else, if you're a fan of the show and you just want to see the content that we put out, make sure to follow us. That way your friend request does not get lost in Facebook purgatory, and you actually get the notifications that you want. What's up? What'd you say about Facebook?
It'll go there immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Exactly. Yes. So make sure to follow us on Facebook, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher. If you like the video version, subscribe on YouTube. That way you're notified whenever we upload a new video. Guys, we really appreciate everybody that shares the show. We cannot thank you enough. Guys, we don't do any advertising to grow the show. We don't do anything like that. We don't pay for Facebook ads and stuff like that to bring new listeners in. It's strictly from people finding us, like a lot of you have. And then once you do find us, you guys are telling other people people about the show. You're telling other agents. You're telling friends that aren't even in real estate, which is awesome. We have people that are listening all over the world. We have people that are listening in other industries for God knows what reason, just because they love the sterling sound, the dulcet tones of Greg's voice. But so we appreciate it, guys. We really, really, really appreciate it, guys. And we're going to be talking more and more about really what it means to be a true rock star agent. And I mentioned it earlier, the empathy is part of that, building rapport with people and really falling in love with the client first and not what you have to sell them is a big part of that. And that's the perspective I love that Debra brings to that, is that the human side of it is such a big part of being a great agent. There's more to it than just sales and marketing tactics stuff that you do. There's a person that you become that attracts the right kind of people that you want to work with. And if you're not attracting that level of business, if you're not attracting enough of it, or if you're not attracting the right kind of people, the first place to look is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt,
Yeah.
You're a linguist and a wordsmith. And Debra's awesome.
Thank you, my good sir.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah. All right, you guys, we're gonna come back. We got some more great episodes this coming week, so we're excited to have you guys here. But Matt, as always, this must be ended. And so, peace out, ninjas. We gone.
Thank you.